Politics without the soap opera, with unfiltered constitutional conservative truth. The Conservative Review with Daniel Horowitz.
And welcome back, fellow patriots, to the Conservative Review podcast here at our Northern Command Center on this fine Friday, September the 20th, as we barrel towards autumn. Our heat came on for the first time last night, so for whatever reason, it set off the fire alarm and woke me up at 5 o'clock. So I'm just a little bit out of it today, and that's why we're going to have a guest, because I'm kind of out of sorts. But we have a ton of content coming up at our website, conservativereview.com. As you subscribe to our YouTube page, make sure to also check out our print content. Tons of stuff following up on yesterday's show. We talked about importing terrorism. Oh my gosh. A Hezbollah 910 unit guy caught, indicted in New York, surveilling targets for Hezbollah while he was naturalizing and going back to Lebanon 10 times. And of course, see no evil, hear no evil. We just let them in. Friends, I've been briefed on Hezbollah Unit 910. I want to talk to you another time about that. There are plenty of others where this guy comes from. If there is, God forbid, ever another 9/11, meaning coordinated command and control, devastating style attack, it will not be from a Sunni group. It will be from Hezbollah Unit 910. They have that capability today. That's a big issue. We're going to continue focusing. There's a lot of immigration terrorism cases. I've spoken with high officials at DHS. They're not even aware of these cases and the loopholes that go with them. Universal background checks. Gun show loopholes. What about the criminal alien loopholes? There's tons of them. We know exactly which policies to fix. We'll talk about that. Now, connected to that, we have a budget deadline. If we had a sane movement, this would be all hands on deck. They're not going to fight the budget next year before the election. We know that. So this is the end of the rope. Whether it's spending levels, whether it's your policy priorities. This is our vision. This is their vision. Even if you don't think you're going to enact it, but at least this is the way you win an election. We know, policy doesn't matter around here. It's all winning elections, not what you do with it. But at least if you want to win an election, by golly, win an election. Show the contrast. Show that contrast. Democrats, they have their agenda. They came in, they passed a budget bill yesterday in the House with the help of 74 Republicans. Last time I checked, Trump has a veto. Republicans control the Senate. Where is their bill? This is what we want to spend money on. We're going to defund criminal sanctuary cities. We are going to fund border security against the cartels. Repeat sex offenders coming in every single day. We just reported on a 4-year-old who was raped by an illegal alien in Louisiana. There's been about 4 of those cases in Louisiana we reported on recently. And again, the guy was not previously encountered. Border Patrol has caught about 1,000 gang members this year. Lots of criminal aliens, about 4,000 convictions, 3,000 more with warrants. How many haven't they caught? I don't know, but I'll tell you this much. The cartels couldn't earn a living if we had a 95% interdiction rate of these guys. So that is what's going on there. And where is the beating heart of Mitch McConnell when it comes to the budget? With us today, we are bringing on, as always, the most liberal congressman, Texas 21st District, Chip Roy, to discuss this and many other issues. Chip, thanks for joining us right hot off the House floor.
Hey, Daniel, I went down to the floor, and you're going to be surprised by this, but I voted no.
Well, here's the problem. You're in the House where it's understandable when the minority you'll be voting no on a lot of things. Most of your colleagues did vote against that budget bill. In the Senate, we don't always have voting no, and therein lies the problem. But here's what I don't understand. We have a budget deadline come September 30th. We've lost every single budget battle with trifecta control, even when they had control of the House. This is the last time to present your case to the American people, realistically, before the election. Even if you're going to ultimately agree to a CR before September 30th, but this is an ongoing problem till at least November, if not early next year, until they craft a long-term funding bill. This is our opportunity to present our vision. Where is that vision, and what would you advise the Senate Majority Leader and the President to do and to put forward in the coming days?
Well, this is the critical question of our time right now. I really believe that. As you know, I'm a big believer that there are multiple issues we should be concerned about: border security, and there's no greater champion of fighting for border security and eliminating the problems than you. Healthcare reform, getting healthcare freedom back. Foreign affairs, we'll talk about that maybe in a minute, and some of those things. These are all critical issues. But I think the number one issue that we've got to face as conservatives, if you believe in federalism and limited government, if you believe that government programs are a burden and a barrier to opportunity and growth and prosperity, if you're worried about $22 trillion of debt, we've got to focus on spending. If you want to shrink government, if you want to get the bureaucrats out of your life, if you want to maximize freedom and opportunity, then stop spending money in Washington. Republicans have been campaigning on this for forever, but they are not governing. I hate that term in a representative democracy, but they're not carrying out their job to represent the American people to spend responsibly. So you pointed out September 30th is right around the corner. It's our fiscal year. And so what's going to happen? The House just passed a continuing resolution that will kick the can down the road until November 21st, not an accidental date, the week before Thanksgiving, designed specifically to force pressure to maximize spending. That's literally why they do that. They set a date before Thanksgiving, before Christmas, in order to maximize what we call jet fume pressure, that everybody wants to get out of town and go home, and then they'll vote for bad bills and big spending. So problem one is they kick the can down the road and do that. Problem two, the very Republicans who tout the need for us to spend more on defense are then supporting a bill that kicks the can down the road 6 weeks, which is the very thing that the Defense Department is most concerned about. They never can plan. They have to build carriers. They have to buy assets. They need to, they need to be able to plan beyond 6 week intervals. So now we're kicking the can down the road to put pressure to spend more money. And by the way, the CR spends at a level higher than the budget caps that were in place before July. And it sets the stage to then spend to the higher caps that were passed in July, raising them by $320 billion. As your listeners know, we're racking up $100 million of debt per hour. If you run the numbers in our budget and you try to figure out how we get out of this, there is only one way to get out of this, maybe two or three if you break it down. We have got to go back to the cut, cap, and balance approach that we were dealing with back in 2011, where we have to cut, reduce spending, freeze it, cap it, and then we got to grow our way to balance. We got to grow the economy. So if you do those things, we could actually get to a place where we had fiscal sanity. But consider this: we give about $3.6 trillion of income, okay, give or take. About $1 trillion of something you can plausibly call defense. $700 billion for DOD, $100 billion for DHS, a couple $100 billion, a little over that for Veterans Affairs. So $1 trillion that you could call something connected to our defense. About $670 billion, maybe almost $700 billion for Medicare. About $400 billion for interest. Well, guess what? If you look at all of that, you can almost spend all of your $3.6 trillion, right? There you are. And we've not done anything for CIA, FBI, DOJ, labor, education, transportation, any of the stuff that people think we do here. Now, I'm not too bothered by that because most of those agencies are messing with states and our ability to do what we ought to do. But we've got a spending problem and we've got to get busy dealing with it. And if you think about those numbers, it is incumbent upon Republicans, as you point out, in a political year. They came out of the retreat last week saying, well, we got to run on repealing Obamacare and fiscal responsibility and balancing the budget. And guys, do you know how big your credibility gap is with the American people? When for 2 years, the first 2 years of the Trump administration, you blew the lid off of spending, failed to secure the border, and completely botched healthcare. And so we've got to earn it back. And you said it, and I'll stop filibustering here. I'm sorry, Daniel.
Oh, no. No,
you
continue.
Said it, right? You said this is the moment when we should be presenting a vision. This is the moment when we have our moment with the president and the Senate. So you ask what I would do? I would pass a defense bill, a defense appropriations bill in the Senate. I would say on the back of a House bill, I'd amend it so you passed defense appropriations so that we got that done. And I would force the Democrats to own what do we need to defend the United States of America as our core constitutional responsibility. And by the way, I would include DHS and border security funding in it. And I would say, this is what I demand we spend. And then I want a plan for the rest of spending to limit spending and adhere to the caps that will still leave us with $1 trillion deficits, but at least it's a step in the right direction. And then we should make 2020 an election, election that is focused on fiscal responsibility. If we did that, the American people would be behind us. They'd be for it. They'd say, yes, do your job, secure the border, have a strong national defense, and then let's get busy figuring out how to have fiscal responsibility.
And that's what they do. Whenever Democrats have control of just one branch or zero branches, they're like, well, another 60 votes. So therefore, we do nothing. Therefore, I won't even go to first base if I don't yet see a plan to necessarily get it home. At least pick the fight, demonstrate it. It's always the Democrats striking first in the House. This is our vision. I'm like, we have to go along with it. Where is your vision? So you just presented that. Slam a bill on the Senate floor dealing with defense spending, and then pick that fight first.
Including border, though, by the way. Like I think we need to recognize as like our defense of our nation, and you talk about this all the time. If it's not our border, what is it? Like,
someone else's border.
I understand, and you understand why Iran is a problem. We understand why China and Russia are problems. We understand why we need a forced presence in parts of the world. But we also understand, and I wrote an op-ed earlier this week, September 18th. Why is that date important? It's the 18th anniversary of the authorization of the use of military force in 2001.
Yeah.
We now have men and women who are enlisting in the military this week who were born after the authorization of force was passed. Yep. In my opinion, we need to have a fresh authorization of force that is very focused on what we need to do abroad and that keeps in mind the burden on our men and women in uniform, the cost in blood and treasure of the United States. But we need clarity of mission. I've not met a single veteran in the 21st Congressional District who doesn't agree that we need a clear mission and know what victory looks like. And they'll go climb that hill, they'll go fight, and they'll do the great things that our men and women in uniform do. But we got to have a clear mission, and it's time to do that.
I was going to go to healthcare, but let's do that at the end.
Yeah.
Let's continue along the lines, because this ties in security, visas, border, spending, and military mission all in one. Because again, this is how they hold us hostage, all the military spending, this and that. Here's the thing, and we presented this case. Last Friday we had a show with fellow Texan. I know you worked a little bit with him under the Perry administration, Colonel Dan Steiner. He commanded Texas military forces, and he presented for us a vision of what it means to do strike and maneuver instead of hold and build, where for a fraction of our costs, using mainly air power and our air superiority, could have defined the issues we have, take care of it, preserve our resolve and resources to then really have a deterrent against Iran, the real big nation states that affect us, not these two big groups in fighting tribal warfares in countries. And then we would have tons of money left over, A, to not be held hostage on non-defense spending, B, save a ton of lives, C, if we would use a fraction of that air superiority on our border where you could monitor anything that moves, we would have the border, China, Iran deterrent, yada, yada. Instead, what do we have? Task and Purpose Military Magazine put out an article yesterday I saw. Every single special forces group, better known as the Green Berets, lost at least one soldier in Afghanistan this year. When it's not even viewed as if we have that much going on. We are using special forces like a conventional force. Not a strike and maneuver, very specialized, specific mission, but to hold together an entire country, because we don't want to say we have a lot of troops there, but we don't want to really fully pull out or offer an alternative. So we do it on their backs. They lose soldiers in these convoys, these like endless, they're not on the offense, but they're not behind defensive forward operating bases either. They're working for unvetted 18-year failure Afghani military. Here's what my question. Aside from defense spending, you have an NDAA, a defense authorization bill. Defense authorization shouldn't be a fight about spending levels, but it always becomes about that. That's the appropriation bill. It should be about, before we need to know what to spend, what is it we want, right? What is it? What sort of threats do we have? Which one of those requires ground? Which one requires air? Which one requires economic sanctions? Which one requires other tools of statecrafts and the other alliances? And which one of them, frankly, is our immigration and visa system? Like, I'll end with this. You could piss around in every Middle Eastern country from now until 100 years from now. But if you bring in For example, 60, 70,000 people from Lebanon and don't even have a vetting system. Forget about those that have jihadist proclivities, but those who are special forces for Hezbollah have already engaged for 4 years. This was the case with Saab, who was just indicted, and then continuously go back and get bomb training there and share pictures of Fenway Park while he's applying for naturalization. Dude, that's not a military issue. I mean, that's an FBI issue. That's a USCIS issue. Why is nobody determining what tools we need for which issue?
So this should be a panel discussion less than an interview.
Yeah.
I don't mean that critically, but right, this is a long conversation. But you've as usual highlighted a whole bunch of issues. Let me take a couple of things that I think are important to sort of clarify. Number one, because we're talking about national security, how we handle developing national security policy. We're talking about border security. We're talking about how we handle who comes here, why they come here, and the nexus between national security. And that's very important. And we're talking about what should our authorization be? What should we be doing? And why isn't border security a piece of that component? And importantly, what should we be doing abroad and so forth? There's a lot in there. Let me say this. Let me focus first on what we're doing overseas, and then come back to border and domestic
as much time as you
security.
have. Yeah.
When I went to Israel a month ago, I saw firsthand, sitting at the border along with a number of my Republican colleagues, my wife, and other people who were on this trip. I stood at the border of Lebanon, and I saw the houses and the mosques in which Israeli intelligence, Mossad, knows with 100% certainty there are missiles sitting in those homes and those mosques pointing at Tel Aviv and pointing at Jerusalem. 130,000 such missiles. This is the reality of what our friends in Israel deal with on a daily basis. Number two, and so this is Lebanon. Lebanon knows this. Lebanon is complicit in this, right? So Hezbollah has ownership of the activities, what they're doing, but this is all a part of what's going on in Lebanon. This is a problem. We've got Syria. We're up at the border with Syria. And now you go down to Gaza, where Hamas is sending over balloons and burning fields and then sending attacks and trying to infiltrate Israel. Israel has a very potent and effective wall or fence all along those borders. And since they built those walls and fences, they've had significant decrease in the number of attacks. Do you remember all of the bombings in the 2000s, right? And what was happening in a hotel, all over. I mean, it goes through numerous
everyday stuff blew up there, yeah.
Right. Well, what happened? They got serious about security. They got serious about a large fence and border security. They got serious about resolve with missile defense and being able to battle against what's happening because they have a singular mission as a country to defend the state of Israel, that the right of the state to exist and to focus on sovereignty and who they are as a nation, and then to get busy doing it. Now, so why do I say all of that? We as a nation are not doing that. We as a nation are not focusing on our national sovereignty, focusing on why it's important for us to have border security. Now, you say, well, we've got different things. We don't have Hezbollah with 130,000 missiles sitting across our border, across the Rio Grande. Now, you and I could spiral for another 2 hours talking about the danger right across the Rio Grande. In Tamaulipas, it's a level 4 state. The Cartel do Noreste, Los Zetas, the Reynosa faction of the Gulf Cartel, they're at war. It's a dangerous zone. Mexico is now becoming increasingly dangerous despite a growing middle class on the back of NAFTA and free trade. It's a place where you don't want to travel because of danger. We can go down that road. And this is why I think we ought to designate certain of those cartels, the ones I just mentioned, as foreign terrorist organizations. But it's all relevant because our national security is at risk because Democrats and weak-kneed Republicans refuse to acknowledge the importance of sovereignty and security in the 21st century. This is not a race issue. This is not an issue about anything other than in a post-9/11 world, when in the ICE facility in Aurora, Colorado, there were 57 countries represented in that facility. 57 countries. I'm not talking about Guatemala, Salvador, Honduras, Mexico. I'm talking about Eritrea, Pakistan, India, Indonesia, Iraq, countries from all over the world represented in that facility.
And Chip, let me just say what you mean by sovereignty. It's not just the physical southern border that's a big component. It's the fact that we have in the palm of our hands. There's a lot of things we can't control fully. Americans have rights. It's hard. You need probable cause to get the guy. You need to convict the guy. Even if you sentence the guy, as we know today, no one serves any time in prison anymore. They're back out giving you more problems. When it comes to foreign nationals, 7.8 billion people in the world, lots of potentially wonderful people that will love America, won't be a public charge, won't be, pissing around with Hezbollah and won't bother us. So we have the ability, the sovereignty means that we have an America. Not everyone gets to choose who comes in, not Americans. And unless we see like you carrying an Al-Qaeda flag on the ship coming in, you're in. No, the opposite. No one's in until we determine with certitude that you are a good guy, which there certainly are plenty of those to bring in. That's what it means. And that's what we're not doing, because that's a big part of the chain migration that we're seeing. We're not vetting these people.
No. And here's an important thing that I want to talk about. This morning, we had a hearing in the Oversight Committee in which Candace Owens, on white supremacism. Candace Owens was there. And I asked her some questions, and she had some great testimony about the extent to which this is a very clear effort by Democrats to sensationalize the race component of this rather than zeroing in on ideological-based crime. Now, why do I say that? This is all relevant to this whole conversation. Andy McCarthy wrote a great piece in National Review on August 5th. Go look it up and Google it. It was basically saying how we can combat white nationalism while protecting the Second Amendment. So what was his point? The Department of Justice under Barack Obama started to turn away from focusing on jihad-based criminal activity, right? In other words, organizations that are like ISIS and Al-Qaeda, and then all of the networks that spawns, and then the people in our country who then take that and go do things, bad things, whether they're doing it as an operative in one of those entities or whether they're a lone wolf that's just inspired by them. All of that happens. Same thing to some degree with white nationalism. But Andy points out in this article the very different point of that, like the reality of the organizational structure. If you want to go combat ideological-based crimes, go after everybody. You don't care what race they are. I don't care what race they are. I care about going after bad guys. So when we talk about what's happening,
not the item, the guy. Yeah,
right. I want the bad guys. So 900,000 people were apprehended on our southern border in the last year, since last October 1, right? Apprehended. That's not talking about the ones who got in who weren't apprehended.
Which will be the really bad guys.
Yes. And so even if just 1% of them are bad guys, that's 9,000 bad guys, okay? Even if just 1%, we know it's probably more. Here's why. If that's 900,000 white Russians, do I care? Right? I want them stopped.
Chip,
right?
I have a question for you. Yeah. If we have a visa process and there's a part of the world where it is very pervasive white supremacism,
right? Should
we triple our immigration from there with no understanding of how we're going to vet out who they are?
No, I mean, this is the point. Like, this is my point exactly, right? We know there are organizations right now in the Ukraine, Russia, and others that want to do us harm. There are a lot of great people there that want to work with us, but there's a lot of people who want to do us harm, and they're fomenting some of this very racism, anti-Jewish, and all sorts of different things, right? I want them vetted. I don't care what color they are. I don't care where they come from. And this is something Candace talked about it great this morning, about the extent to which this is made purposely to be an issue about race instead of our sovereign duty as a nation to secure our borders. And she talked about it beautifully, the impact on Black society in America. Look, I'll tell you this in a heartbeat. There are probably 50 million people in this country who I'd be happy to go swap out with 50 million people around the world.
For sure.
If I can vet them.
But we can't do that.
If they're secure, like, I don't care, right?
See, here's the thing, Chip. If you are a white supremacist, let's say, but you didn't go kinetic in an attack, you're just espousing, I hate such and such. That's freedom of speech. Nothing we can do with that. But if I know you're saying it, for example, on social media, and you apply for a visa, naturalization, then I'm like, dude, I don't want to bring you in. And it's the same thing with Islamic supremacism and all this stuff. It's a legal distinction that it's a redressability. We're all pulling our hair out. How do you stop violence? How do you stop this? Well, the lowest hanging fruit is immigration, because it doesn't matter if you're from Canada or Iceland or whatever. See, let's say you have a green card. Forget about legal immigration. You have a green card, and you're you're doing a bunch of drunk driving, drugs, assault. So look, if that's an American, drunk driving, drugs, assault,
Right.
that guy ain't serving any time, and we're going to be dealing with him for the rest of our life. But this guy, I don't care who he is. We dealt with that Ukrainian refugee in New Hampshire around July 4th time, killed 7 former Marines, bikers, drunk driving. It turned out he had larceny, multiple driving issues, drunk driving, drugs. He should have been out of here. And it's a similar thing in your home state. I don't hear any of your Republican colleagues in Texas. Billy Chememer is now accused of and this speaks to the gun issue, smothering with nothing more than a pillow in one of the most horrific mass murders in American history, 19 seniors in the most vulnerable way. And this is a known 2 loopholes. Number one, he was originally illegal, but he cleansed his status with a marriage that I wonder if was real. Now, that is not mandatory. That's a discretionary leniency that they may give, but it's become automatic. No one's talking about fixing that. Then, even after he got a green card, he had deportable offenses or offenses that if they're not, they're 2 DWIs. If they're not, we should make them. These are the loopholes, the high capacity criminal alien loopholes, the universal background checks. This is where we have the information. We have it. They're foreign nationals. I don't understand. It's not, Chip, you could want 5 million immigrants. That's another debate. But shouldn't we all agree that we have the ability to ensure that anyone we bring in is a good guy? And you know what? If we make a mistake, there's a 5 to 7 year grace period that if you're doing stuff, we should nail you on it and you're out of here.
Well, this is like, I mean,
it's very mechanical.
You started this conversation, this particular question, talking about the connection to overall national security. So, to your point, yes, is the answer to your question. Of course, we can have a national debate about how many people should come into our country and work, guest workers or not, whether or not they come in from what countries. Fine, let's have that debate. By the way, we had a bill last year, which was a flawed bill from my perspective in 2018, that not a single, I like to beat up Republicans when we fail, but let's be very clear. Not one Democrat voted for a bill on the floor of the House of Representatives that would have reworked our immigration system to be point-based, merit-based instead of having the chain migration problem, would have had massive increases to security, probably not everything you and I would want, but would have had significant security and fixes to asylum and fixes to Flores, which was at the heart of what we've dealt with in the traffic over the last year, and then had status for people who were here illegally, whether one bill had DACA, the other bill had a much more expansive status. Now, you and I have some concerns about that, but pause for a minute and let's just soak in. Not one Democrat supported either of those bills.
It gave American victims a right to sue. It also, what it did was, it had mandatory apprehensions for drunk driving illegal aliens. I mean, why would you want to have other countries' drunk drivers?
The point here is, are those 2 bills that finally got to a vote on the floor of the House. The Freedom Caucus, of which I'm proudly a member, was much maligned, right? Because, you're an extremist on immigration. No, hold on. The Freedom Caucus, save a couple of people, voted for a version of that bill which provided status for the Dreamers, the DACA class. Now, I've got concerns and problems with that. Let me be perfectly clear. However, no Democrat voted for that bill, even though it had status, reformed immigration the business community and Americans wanted in some respects, and had some security, even if it wasn't as far as you and I. In other words, it was a soft bill. Both of them were soft bills.
It was a bill that
Democrats
that would have been universal until a few years ago, meaning Barack Obama's whole line was deport criminals, not grandmothers. Now they don't want to deport criminals. I mean, that's the issue. That's how far this issue has moved. But you mentioned chain migration. I want to discuss that because this, again, very important case, this Alexei Saab, Lebanese immigrant that was the highest level special ops unit 910 for Hezbollah, 33-page complaint that I read from the FBI. what people don't realize, we think of chain migration as it's just stupid. It's an economic issue. Why not have merit based? That's all true. There's a major national security problem because what I've been briefed on with Hezbollah 910, what they do is they use our immigration system as the lead part of their jihad. So what they do is they get people, because we've had a ton of immigration over time. So they feed on the family members. They get people that they know could easily get in on a green card. And then what's amazing is how efficient they were. This guy naturalized 5 years to the dot. He had the application. You rarely see that, but that's how efficient they are. It's all works in immigration. If you have a merit-based system, the point is that's sovereignty. We are choosing who to bring in. I want you. I want you. Here, it's the opposite. It's thrown at you based on family ties. Officially, we have whatever vetting we have, but the philosophy within the USCIS caseworkers becomes more like the default is you have the claim. You're a relative. If we see you're a member, prima facie, but we, you rarely see that. That's the danger. It's a national security problem. You're perpetuating that.
So, yeah, I couldn't agree more. And this lies at the heart of what I think the American people are really frustrated about and why the Republicans are losing the opportunity right now to galvanize a truly game-changing force heading into 2020. Now, I still think it's very possible. We've got a lot of time. Contract with America in 94 wasn't introduced until the fall before heading into the election.
You need to introduce
we've got
one.
Time.
We need one.
What is that?
You need to introduce it. We need a document.
I've got something I'm working on, but we'll talk about that. But what I am of the belief is that we need that. We need a galvanizing, but it's not complex. Look, when I ran last year, and I believe these things lie at the core of what we need to do. I ran on securing the border, unequivocally. Secure the border. I don't want any bouncing back and forth. I want cleared cane. I want roads. I want fencing. I want border agents. I want a clear system that works. Secure the border, period. 2, healthcare freedom. And we'll talk about healthcare in a minute. I want to get insurance bureaucrats and government bureaucrats out of the way of you and your doctor so that you can get price pressure down, have more access to healthcare, and have the best healthcare in the world in the 21st century. We can talk about that. 3, we need to have a balanced budget, or stated differently, fiscal responsibility. You need to limit spending and get economic growth in place. And I campaign on those 3 things in particular, and then 2 others. 1, a clear mission for our men and women in uniform, the tools to carry it out and to care when they get home, but a clear mission. That is a very important part. And then the last thing is leave virtually the rest of that stuff to the American people in the States. Get out of the way. And I believe that in that lies the core of what we want to do. And step by step, we should go through each one of those things and have a vision for America that they'll get behind. They want fiscal sanity. They're tired of the endless spending. They're tired of the irresponsibility. They're tired of the kicking the can. They want a secure border. The vast majority of the American people want a secure border. Yes, they want people to be able to come here. Yes, they want to be able to offer asylum to people who truly need it. But they want a secure border that we control and sovereignty. They want affordable health care. They don't really want, at the end of the day, what they're being told and foisted upon them, that you must have coverage. They want care. Now, they get scared about thinking insurance is the path to care. Chip, it is not.
We're going to run out of time. Let's take it right there. I want to take that. I want to grab the bull by the horns. Okay. Because every time I want to talk about this with you and I never get to it, healthcare. Okay. So you put out a statement on Twitter that kind of, or you're having a conversation with some of our mutual friends in the DPC community, direct primary care.
Yep.
And you said, we have an addiction problem. We are too addicted to health insurance. Now, what I've seen for too long is that what Democrats do is this. They do slash and burn, divide and conquer. They go and screw up the system more and more. And then they blame the system on free market when they already made it not, and then demand the next step. Then they complain about the next step they crapped in as if they had nothing to do with it. And that engenders a need for more. And what no one's discussing is, imagine if our healthcare looked like nothing different than the food chain supply in supermarkets. Imagine if our subsidization, however much welfare you want, we'll debate that another time, I'll give it to you. But if we structured it like food stamps, you cut out the middleman. So one of the most amazing stories that I love to say on this show, Boris Yeltsin in your home state visited in 1987. Before he was president, he was some sort of a cabinet official, and he visited the Space Center in Houston. Wasn't impressed by that. You know what he was impressed by? He visited Randall's supermarket. And he saw the array of orange juice and choices. Now, you fast forward 30 years, the hedonism and indulgence, and look, Coolidge warned about that. Has its own problems. But the array of choices in almost any other sphere of economic markets in this country is insane. No other country had it. It blew his mind, the choices we have. Healthcare should look like an American supermarket, not a Venezuelan or a Soviet supermarket. And even for the people that are poor, we have 40 million people on food stamps. But what I can say about food stamps is it doesn't destroy the market for everyone else. You go in like anyone else and you have the same choices and you purchase whatever you want. What is your kind of blueprint to, as much as practicably possible, move healthcare in that direction? Take it from there.
Look, your talking point there is a great one, and I'm going to steal it, that our healthcare system needs to look more like an American supermarket. Number one, let me clarify one thing. And it's actually, I'm okay with the language, but that was an article written about what I said that said that I said we have an addiction to healthcare. I would modify that slightly to say, insurance, an addiction to health insurance. I would modify that slightly to say we have an addiction to fake insurance. We have an addiction to
the cartel's conception of it.
Right? So now, why do I say that? Because here's the answer to your question. This is not that hard. We need to expand the ability for American people to go shop for healthcare the same way they do, as you said, in a supermarket. How do you do that? I introduced a bill called the Healthcare Freedom Act in July. And what it does is creates a health freedom account, which is a massively expanded health savings account, which enables you to save money yourself, tax advantage, allows an employer to provide dollars into it, tax advantage, the same tax break they get now for paying directly to your insurance company. It allows you to share it with other people, allows you to pass it down to heirs, and it allows you to spend it on whatever you want to. Direct primary care, direct to doctors, pay for service, go pay for the care, pay for insurance. What do I mean by insurance? Actual insurance, indemnity insurance, where you've got a backstop like you do for your car or your house. When your house has a fire, you go to your insurance company. When your house has a leak, you call the plumber. This is what we need to get back to. And then finally,
and freeze frame, you don't have the Allstate with your homeowner's insurance controlling the supply chain of shingles on the roof and construction materials.
Yes, this is the important part. I often say when I'm out campaigning, my kids, we don't watch very much TV. I think TV is kind of bad for you. But my principals stopped just short of that because we watch sports. So they know the jingles to Farmers, Allstate, State Farm, and they can do,
like a good neighbor, State Farm is there,
But now do the same thing for Aetna. Do the same thing for Blue Cross.
They don't need to, because government made them the consumer and the provider at the same time.
They don't have to get in your brain to sell you a product, because it's crony capitalism where they're getting funding from the government to tell you what your healthcare has to look like. So I invite any Democrat to go war toe-to-toe with any Republican who will stand up and say we should end our addiction to managed insurance companies, companies managing your healthcare. End that addiction, because I want to have what you said, the supermarket healthcare, where you take your health savings account and you go to the doctor and you pay for the care with the money that's in that account, tax advantage, and you go shop for it. You want transparency in pricing. You don't need the government to mandate some sheet of prices. You need to free up the market, so you have to go pay for the prices. Then they have to compete for your business and drive prices down, just like when you get an oil change, just like when you get your brakes fixed. Do you care what the supply chain is for brake providers? There's probably only 3 or 4 manufacturers of brakes, but then they go through and then people buy them. They're wholesalers, and then Pep Boys buys them, and your automobile, your dealership buys them, the Jeep dealership gets them, and so forth. And you've got literally 1,000 options, probably within 60 miles of my house, to go get my car repair done. Why don't we have that for healthcare? My chief of staff needed to go get an appointment. I won't get into what it was, but just to get something dealt with. And he is a veteran, and he's having to go through our convoluted health system. He had 3 doctors anywhere in and around DC to deal with this problem that was in network. Screw that. I'm tired of that. That's not freedom. You government don't get to tell me, and you insurance company don't get to tell me where I can go get health care. I want to call a doctor of my choice on my choosing for my family in a free society.
You can only you can only shop for food at that gas station mini mart. You can't go to Walmart or Whole Foods.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, that's what it would be. But I think
this is the same thing, by the way, on drug pricing, right? Drug pricing is the same thing, right? They force you into a narrow supply chain where your insurance company, and they all cut these deals, they've got the PBMs in there, and then you add that on top of complex patents, and suddenly you're paying $1,000 for something that could cost you $40. And this we can blow the lid off of. We need the Costco or the Sam's Club of drugs. Break down these supply chains so you can go compete in the market and go buy drugs across the board, because we have places where you can do that the American people don't know about, because they're trained like sheep to go to an insurance company and say, "Oh, Father, please tell me what my health will look like." No, you control your health. You go out in the market. You go get insulin from a club where you can get prices down. You go get the doctor of your choice and you choose. And you know what? If you want cancer doctors at MD Anderson, maybe that doctor costs $1,000, where the doctor at Texas Oncology in Austin is $500 because MD Anderson's the best in the world. That's okay.
And then, Chip, take what you said and then the remainder. Anyone who can't afford that, guess what? For a fraction of the 3.2 to 3.4 trillion we spend as a nation, and 1.6 trillion at a governmental level, about 1.2 at a federal level, the rest at a state level, that we spend lining the pockets and creating monopolies, give it just hand it. I'm actually for handouts. In this case, do it, give the money in the HSA accounts. If you don't have it, backfill it.
And by the way, we can create a cradle to grave structure so that when you're born until you die, you're able to fund that, fill it yourself. Employers can provide tax advantage. Charities can provide. So if you've got a veteran down the street who needs care, you want to give that guy $500 or whatever, you can do that. Or yes, maybe governmental entities, state, local, or federal, where they can put money into the account. This, credit to Paul Ryan, premium support, right? That went, the idea that we put some money into to have a kind of voucher kind.
It's kind of like food stamps.
But I think it ought to be, instead of premium support, because that was insurance, I think this ought to be healthcare support. So here you go. Here's the money you need if you're poor, or, you don't have enough money in your account. Here's a backstop. There are any number of ways we could do it.
No, we're going to give it to your Blue Cross Food Lion food supply, whatever card. Right. That's what the equivalent would be. Like, I'm a conservative, and I say, if we could only run Medicaid like food stamps, we'd be better off. I mean, you give it to them, and then you know what? You don't have the stigma. You're a Medicaid patient. You're like anyone else. And in this case, you do go to the checkout counter with some sort of EBT card, although they took the stigma with the card. But
the bottom line is, everybody gets the joke of what the problem is. The problem is Republicans are crying over in the corner, wringing their hands, going, "Oh, please don't attack me because I don't want people with pre-existing conditions." Look, there are endless number of ways that we can handle that problem the way you just described. But look, we haven't talked about health sharing ministries or health sharing organizations where you defray costs. There are people today who can't afford health care in our broken insurance system because they're having to pay massive premiums with massive deductibles and then be told they can only go to 3 doctors. What do instead? They go to direct primary care, go to doctors who will charge a fraction of the price because it's a fair price for the service rendered. Then they go to a health sharing ministry to defray the cost when you get hit with something that's not good for your budget. It happens, right? Your kid falls down and breaks a leg in an emergency room or whatever, something that's, I don't have $2,000 right now to deal with this. Well, Then you've got a health sharing organization where you can defray the cost. Then you ultimately in a market could have catastrophic insurance.
Yeah.
So when you get cancer, do whatever. Oh, Chip, but what about pre-existing conditions? How are you going to price it? Hold on. The health sharing organizations I'm aware of, they factor in most pre-existing conditions. You can do it if you have lower costs and enable you to defray the cost.
If everyone else is lower. Yeah, if everyone else is lower, you isolate and minimize the problem, not spread it around and magnify the problem. You isolate. Everyone else should be like, for example, let me explain this.
All right, well, hold on. I got about 2 minutes. So
you know what? I'll explain that afterwards. Finish your thought.
Well, no, I mean, that's my thought on healthcare. Okay. I think, and we've got the makings of it. And there's an increasing, look here, let me be optimistic. There's an increasing recognition by Republicans that we need to have a much bigger vision for healthcare. And they're starting to see the merits of what we're talking about. In other words, these conversations are seeping into the bloodstream. I am beating the war drum on healthcare freedom. And that's what I'm going to call it until somebody gives me a better moniker. But I believe that if we free up the healthcare system to, like you said, have the supermarket of healthcare or the 21st century, Uberization of American healthcare, right? Where you can use technology to be able to go out and have a best doctor in the world give you a diagnosis, even though you live in a small town 1,000 miles away, where you can get blood checked on your iPhone. You can do all sorts of different things now. And we're holding all of that great innovation back because we're wed to a broken system that is insurance run, crony insurance run, that when we say, oh, we don't want single payer government run healthcare, but then we prop up the very broken crony insurance run healthcare system that's probably as bad or worse than a government run healthcare system. So let's get busy talking about freedom, opportunity, entrepreneurial capability, and what we can have in terms of healthcare. If you do that, and you talk about fiscal sanity, but actually back it up by action. And if you stand up and talk about securing the border, and then we get real serious about a clear mission for our men and women in uniform, we can have an unbelievable, prosperous 21st century with high economic growth, getting spending down, healthcare for everybody, and making sure that we've got the country that's worth passing down to our kids and grandkids, instead of languishing around with this stupid swamp-based mess that's holding us back.
And there's nothing even right-wing about that. I mean, I think most people agree with that. We could have certain disagreements on things, but if we would just get the politics out, I know, Chip, I know you don't exactly get too much money from the health insurance cartel, that all these people who claim they don't like them get a ton of money from it. And there's a reason they get money for it, because they perpetuate the system.
Yes. I mean, look, they get $100 billion of freaking subsidies in ACA. More than that. And people wonder why, why this system continues to perpetuate. And by the way, we also encourage them. They make more money the more they keep charging and putting out, because they basically get a percentage of what they're putting out. So they're not incented to drop prices down and to hold spending down. They're incented to just keep bloating and spending money as an insurance company to then get the subsidies from the federal government. It's nonsense. But look, we've got the opportunity to change that. We need all of your listeners. Go call your congressmen and women. Tell them and your senators you want what we just talked about. Tell them what you want. You demand a secure border. You demand fiscal responsibility. You demand a clear mission. You demand healthcare freedom. And then get Washington the hell out of the way. I'm telling you,
it's that simple.
This is the opportunity. We need to fight for it.
Now we just need to clone you and multiply you. There you have it, Chip. As always, we're going to have you back as a regular guest. We will demand it of you. Folks, if you want to send him a message or ask a question of him, email me at dhorowitz@blazemedia.com. That was, again, Chip Roy of Texas 21. You got to love him. You got to love a guy like that. How often do you see a Republican with passion, a sense of purpose, a mission? Why don't we have more people like that? And not just a one-trick pony, but multiple issues. And he really hits on most of the force multiplying issues of our time. And you know what? Chip is outspent in his district, and it's increasingly becoming a competitive district. I mean, you have Republicans sitting in R+30 districts that won't fight for anything. So that's it. I just wanted to say, and want to cut him off there. He gave us a lot of time, and he had to run. He's still in session. I have a friend of mine who's a PA. So, you would think he would know about this, working in the medical profession, but, our addiction to this cartel insurance, when to get a prescription of amoxicillin filled. I guess he himself wrote it for his kid. And he went to the pharmacy and gave the insurance card. And he expected like, oh, the bill would be like $1 million or something. He didn't know that amoxicillin, especially if it's generic, it was $3. I mean, why are we paying with third party, fourth party payer with that? Yes, there's some aspects of healthcare that are very expensive and innovative, but most of the day-to-day things aren't. So let's at least deal with that in a typical free market way, and you'll have so many more resources to deal with the vexing parts of healthcare. That's the problem. That's what Chip means by the addiction to this broken paradigm of venture socialist, government regulated plus subsidized and manipulated and distorted concept of insurance. There's a lot we didn't get to. There's so much more with Chip, so much more I want to do alone, but we are out of time for the week. Lots more content to come. Subscribe to our YouTube page. Again, email dhorowitz@blazemedia.com. Tweet me at @armconservative. Have a blessed weekend. Same place, same time next Monday. Till next time, God bless.